I encourage you to talk to them if you want to have the debate here. Will the candidates for the State House of Representatives, District 45, please take their places at the table. There are two candidates in this race. Ken Strange, Republican, Erin Zwiener, Democrat. Everyone, since we're going to run tight on time, it's going to go long anyway. So if you hold your applause until the end, it will help things go a little more efficiently. All right, we each have 1 minute to open. Mr. Strange, would you please begin?
Hello, my name is Ken Strange, and I've lived in this district for about 33 years now. I got here in 1986 and immediately joined the volunteer fire department. I've been involved with the community ever since. I went into remember the EMS, by the grace of God. It was kind of a calling that happened, and it was an awesome thing for me. In 2004, I took over as director of Wimberley EMS, and I've been there ever since. 10-year school board member, and I decided to rush for this position because I love this area. I love the people in this area. And I think that things could be done better. I think that we need to work on our public school system. That's really what got me into this. But I'm also really interested to make sure we have water to drink while we're here, and clean water. So these are things that I'll be fighting for when I go to the State House. I want to thank you guys very much for being here, and thank the legal member voters.
Ms. Zwiener?
My name is Erin Zwiener. I'm an author, educator, and a conservationist. I got into this race because I was disappointed in our previous representation. I reached out with a policy question, and instead of having that question answered, I was insulted and turned away. And you, the people of House District 45, deserve better than that. You deserve a representative who can look you in the eye and tell you their honest answer of what they're going to do for you. My background is in natural resource conservation. I work for conservation nonprofits, and it was my job to build bridges between different stakeholders. I sat down with bloggers, environmentalists, ranchers, and asked them to put aside their agenda and talk about their values. And what I know about Texas is we share a lot of values, regardless of partisan labels. We all want a great education for our children. We want everyone to have access to quality health care, and we want to protect our natural world and respect our neighbors. That's what I'm going to go to the Texas legislature to do, to fight for that for each and every one of us.
Our first lead question. Explain the role you believe the state government should play in addressing the cost of and access to health care. Mr. Strange?
Well, I think the state government needs to really look at any federal dollars that are left on the table. I think that we need to look at that, but I think that if we decide to go in that route, we need to build a sustainable program. That if those dollars go away, we can still afford to move forward with all the other programs that we have in the state of Texas. I mean, our hearts are huge and our resources are small. And we need to really pay attention to that. With public school coming up, with so many issues coming up in our state, we do need to have good health care for all. And I think we need to do that in a very meaningful, sustainable way, that when those federal dollars go away, we can continue to do that without burdening the state.
Ms. Zwiener?
I am glad that my opponent brought up federal dollars left on the table. Texas, in a fit of stubbornness, left $6 billion a year of federal money on the table when we refused to expand Medicaid after the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Texas has the highest uninsured rate in the nation, and that's why, because we did not accept the Medicaid expansion. Those extra dollars are going to expire soon, but there's a lot of talk about Congress expanding their availability for another 4, 6, 10 years. We'll see what Congress does. In the meanwhile, we need to expand Medicaid right now. We need to cover another 1.5 million people and another 10,000 people right here in Hays and Blanco counties. And this is healthcare we are already paying for. This county spends $14 million a year of your taxpayer dollars to write off hospital care for folks who can't afford to pay. We're paying for it, we're just paying for it efficiently. I want folks to seek medical care before it's an emergency, and I want all of us to be able to drive our healthcare costs down.
Mr. Strange, you have 1 minute to rebut.
I agree. If we take that money, we need to do it very reasonably and with lots of thought of how, when that money is pulled away, how is the state of Texas going to continue to pay for those services?
Our second lead question. What should be the state's role in immigration enforcement? Ms. Zwiener?
Immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility. And our immigration system in Texas, or not in Texas, in the country, has been broken my entire lifetime. I'm 33. Congress has been kicking that can down the road for my whole life. I don't think Texas should play any part in propping up a broken system. So that should be a federal responsibility, and right now Texas is spending $400 million a year on border security. We are sending state troopers down to the border, and the result we are seeing is increased traffic violations. That's not a good use of your time. So I would like to see the state repeal Senate Bill 4, a law that was passed last session, which takes away flexibility from our local law enforcement, from our sheriff, from our police chiefs, and doesn't let them decide what's best for the community. I'll fight to do that, and I will fight to make sure that we treat all of our neighbors with respect, regardless of their documentation status.
Mr. Strange?
Well, I think the state of Texas does spend a lot of money on protecting the border, and I think they have to, because the border is not being protected any other way. And I think it's incumbent on us to protect that border. And I, for one, am an opponent of, I am for SB 4, because I think that when we have sanctuary cities, we are encouraging people to come across the border in a very unsafe manner at this point. People are being abused, used, ripped off for their money, put in sex trade, walking through the desert, dying, trying to get to these sanctuary cities that we are supporting. I think that instead of having sanctuary cities, we need to work on building laws that make it better for people to come here in a safe manner. I think that's where our energies need to be, is not on protecting people who are breaking the law, but getting people to understand the law, design the law so that it's much better so people can get over here in a safe manner and take care of the jobs that they want to take care of.
Ms. Zwiener, you have a minute to rebut.
I'm glad that my opponent does support comprehensive immigration reform, or at least that's what I believe he was saying. However, we can't do that at the Texas legislature. We don't have that authority. It's federal. What we can do is repeal Senate Bill 4, and I'm going to come back to it because the other element that is in that law is a show me your papers provision. Our sheriff in Hays County could tell his officers that he doesn't want them to be asking folks to prove their citizens, but any individual law enforcement officer is empowered, if they suspect someone is not in the country with documentation, to demand proof. That's just opening the door to racial profiling. My Texas is better than that. My Texas is absolutely better than that. Furthermore, there is no evidence that laws like Senate Bill 4 are actually going to protect migrants. They will just open them up to more danger, more abuse. We have already seen reports of abuse and sexual assault from immigrants drop dramatically because victims are afraid to come to law enforcement. So don't dress this up as for the immigrants.
Are there questions from the audience? Seconds to ask your question, and please state your name.
Hi, I'm Naomi Narvaez San Marcos. This question is for Erin. Erin, you said just now Texas is your Texas, but isn't it more correct to say Arizona is, because you just recently got to Texas And your voting record shows that you just voted in 2018?
Ms. Zwiener?
I'm a fifth generation Texan. My family got here in the 1850s. Well, some in the 1880s when the Zwieners got here. But the Dietrichs were here in the 1850s. I was born in Texas. I have lived more of my life in Texas than I haven't. But like many young people, I traveled to go to school. I had the honor of attending the University of Montana, which is one of the best schools in the country for forestry. So I got my undergrad in. And I had the honor of attending the University of Arizona, which is where I got my master's degree in creative nonfiction. Also one of the best schools in the country for that particular program. None of that makes me any less Texan. Texas is home. There's a reason I am back here, living about 10 miles from where I grew up as a kid.
So why don't you vote in our state?
You've asked your question, but that Mr. Strange has a minute to answer all this.
You know, I'm actually happy to clarify that, and I'll say I was still between places. We had already signed a contract on our home here in Driftwood, but we were temporarily back in Arizona, packing
Sorry, I
up.
believe your time is up.
He was just holding the 15-second up at the end. Right? Okay. All I'll say is, I voted in Arizona because it was easier. You make it easier to vote in Texas, I would have voted here, and I'll do that.
Mr. Strange?
I've only been here 35 years. I don't know what to say.
Next audience question.
My name is Barry Goyette. I'm in Precinct 3, Hays County, and I'm here to represent the animals of the county and the state. In San Marcos, we have a regional animal shelter that's taking in animals from all over the county. In San Antonio, there's Pets Alive. Austin, there's a Pets Alive. El Paso, Rosenberg. Why isn't San Marcos doing something to join these forces? 70% of cats, 30% of dogs, only 15% adoptions. We need a regional for all the counties. We need to use the energy of all of us together to save animals' lives.
Mr. Strange?
I agree. I think that we need to have no-kill shelters here, and I would be glad to work with the county to make that happen. And you as well, so I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Ms. Zwiener?
I agree, no-kill shelters are certainly the better way to go. I do want to be conscious this is a local issue, and so I would like to see the county or the city take leadership on it, but I am happy to help them with that. I do think we have to make sure we're being proactive. It is very difficult to get access to low-cost or free space and neuters in Hays County, and that is a way that we can make a long-term difference instead of always chasing the ever-growing stray population.
Next audience question.
Yes, my name is Ana Juarez, and I have a question for both of the candidates. Could you expand a little bit more on SB4 and the issue of immigration and the border wall? This is for both of the candidates. Thank you.
Ms. Zwiener?
Yeah, so the border wall is a federal project, though it is something that obviously dramatically impacts the state of Texas. And the state of Texas does have some opportunities to fight back, particularly with the amount of land that might be condemned from private property owners, which is a huge concern I have. Senate Bill 4, as we started to discuss, does two main things. One, it tells our sheriffs and our police chiefs that every single time Immigration and Customs Enforcement puts a detainer on somebody, a 72-hour detainer, that the law enforcement agency has to comply. Now, Immigration and Customs only picks up about a third of the people they put detainers on. So it's also a hold that often has no basis. It's just names being cross-referenced in a database. I think that takes away the flexibility of our law enforcement to do their job, and as I mentioned, has reduced the number of folks coming forward who are victims. The second thing it does is, as I mentioned, allow racial profiling from law enforcement officers. I think most of our law enforcement officers aren't interested in doing that, but that is not a power we should be giving anyone.
Mr. Strange?
I think SB 4 was a well-thought-out plan, and I think that we need to stick with that. But I'm telling you, if we don't change the law and make it better for these people to come over here, they're going to continue to die in the back of semi-trucks. They're going to continue to be put into sex trade. They're going to continue to be bound out in the desert. And I think that we need to work better on getting people here in a much better way. They need to be here. They work hard. I appreciate them. I have a lot of friends who are here. who are illegal, and I want to see that changed, and I want to see it better for all these things.
Next audience question?
My name is Ruben Garza. I'm a lifelong Texan, and you got here quick enough, and it's okay with me. My question is regarding affordable, what's now being called affordable workforce housing. Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs has millions and millions of pass-through and flow-through money from the federal government. What would you do to help the city and the county gain more of that money and be more proactive? In the last few years, they've got more like banks, and they're being more restricted. Thank you.
Mr. Strange?
Yes, I talked a lot about this with a lot of my colleagues. I was talking to the guys at Dripping Springs, their fire department. They have one fireman that lives in the district. All the other firemen have to live out of the district because they can't afford to live in their own district. Teachers are the same. I think that we need to work with the cities and the counties to put this affordable housing in, to take care of this money and get people in some places they can afford to live. And be serious about it. I think this is something that we really need to work hard on, and I appreciate the question. I am in full support of that.
Ms. Zwiener?
I knock on a lot of doors, and if I had a nickel for every Dripping Springs ISD teacher I've met who lives in Kyle, I could fund this whole campaign. We have a major affordable housing crisis in this district, and in every part of this district to different extents. There is that federal pass-through money that often comes in the form of tax credits for new housing developments. And that's a competitive process to get those tax credits for a developer. Now, for them to be successful in that competitive process, they almost always need the support of the legislature. They need the support of the legislator for that particular district. Now, the incumbent, who is not on the stage today, has not supported those competitive applications, and that's negatively impacted projects all across Hayes and Lake County. I, of course, will vet each of those individual projects, but I fully anticipate supporting more efforts towards those affordable housing projects with the communities.
Next audience question?
Brian McCullough, San Marcos, Texas. Too many of our public schools are failing, and all they do in Austin, all they've done is keep changing the name of several of the high schools there. So what plans do you have to expand things like charter schools and to allow people in poor districts, poor areas to get to private schools? Things like vouchers for people under the poverty level.
Ms. Zwiener?
Short answer, I don't. I do not support a massive expansion of our charter school network, and I don't support vouchers. To be clear, those are two separate things. Charters are schools that currently exist with state funding. They are public schools, but they exist as a separate system. Vouchers, as they have been written, are taking your taxpayer dollars and letting folks use them to go to a private school. I believe in our neighborhood schools. I believe in our public schools. The hard thing right now is that the legislature is setting them up to fail. They have dropped the funding for schools dramatically. When I was a public school kid here in Texas, the state paid for 60% of the cost of my education. Now it's down to 38%. And that puts our districts between a rock and a hard place. Property tax spending on public schools has gone up 50% just in the last decade. So we can have great public schools. We just have to invest in them, and the legislature has refused to do that. So we have to keep our promise to Texas kids, fund our schools, and take the burden off property taxpayers.
Mr. Strange?
I too am against vouchers. I think vouchers are going to be really bad for our state, the way they're written right now. But I think that we need to work hard and really fund schools in a better way than what we've been doing right now. We are burdening taxpayers with that. When I kept hearing the last two guys talking about the tax bill going up, about the biggest bulk of that is your school taxes in that. And I think we really need to work on that. And I plan, this is truly what got me into this, is how do we fund schools in a good, sustainable manner? How do we really go in and see what schools are doing, and finding schools that are doing a great job and incentivizing those schools to continue to do that. And schools that are not doing a great job, how do we go in and support that? And how do we help build that program and make it a better program, other than just changing the name? I think that we can do that as a state. I think that we can build our education much, much better than it is right now.
Two more audience questions. Your name, please?
Hi, I'm Dr. Joanne Salas, and my question relates to Senate Bill 4. So I'm wondering, the question is addressed to both of you, what you would do to protect people that look like me from racial profiling.
Mr. Strange?
The first thing I'd do is I would weed out the bad seeds. I was talking to a group yesterday, and we were talking about this exact same thing. And they kept saying, and what about in this county? And what about this particular thing? And what about that? And there are bad seeds out there, and I think we need to weed those bad seeds out. I've talked to our sheriff here, and he is very responsive to that. And I think that we need to continue to do that. But I think that we need to obey the laws of the state of Texas. And I think if we don't like the laws of the state of Texas, we need to make them better. We need to figure out how to make this thing work better for all people. I do not like racial profiling in any kind of way, and I think that there are some bad seeds out there, and we need to fix that and take care of those people and address that as it comes.
Ms. Zwiener?
I heard a whole lot of things I agree with, but I didn't hear a lot of how. I fully agree that if we don't like the laws, we should change them. That's why I'm running for the legislature. First law I will change is Senate Bill 4. We need to be trying to repeal that law every single session until it's gone, because it is the most disgraceful piece of legislation that has come through the state of Texas in my lifetime, period. Another thing we can do to help protect folks from racial profiling and discrimination is we can provide some better race sensitivity training for our law enforcement. There was a bill last session that was, blank on the young woman's name, but a young woman who encountered law enforcement through a routine traffic stop, ended up in jail, and unfortunately, apparently committed suicide while she was there. And so this law, or this bill originally had two portions, one for better mental health services for folks who are in jail, and the other part for racial sensitivity training. Unfortunately, only the mental health provisions got through. I think we need to bring the other provisions back next session.
Our last audience question. Your name, please?
Roland Salcedo, San Marcos, Texas. My question is, y'all touched on this just a while ago a little bit, but if you could elaborate a little bit more, what would you do, what are you going to do in regards to getting the state to pay their fair share so that the responsibility and the obligation doesn't fall onto the local municipalities in continuously raising the taxes? What are y'all going to do, a plan? I mean, what do y'all have an idea of something that you can take to this legislature for this tax plan?
Ms. Zwiener?
The reason the state share of public education has dropped so much is because the way the current funding formulas are written, the higher property tax values go, or the higher home values go, the more the state share drops. That's built into the current system. We have to fundamentally rewrite the formulas. And I'm not going to lie to y'all, it ain't going to be pretty when we're fighting about that in the legislature, but we've got to do it. One baseline I think we need to add, because the legislature has known they needed to fix this for over a decade, is we need an amendment to the Constitution of the state of Texas to require the state to pay at least 50% of the cost of our public schools. That's something we can bring to the floor next session that hopefully you Texans will have a chance to vote for at the ballot box. I think the legislature has proved they need that handrail. Now, the question always ends up being, where can funding come from? And I think we have some great opportunities for savings in our criminal justice system. I think we have some great opportunities for saving with that $400 million a year we're spending on border security, i.e. more DUIs. And I think we have some opportunities to shore up some business taxes that were cut last session.
Mr. Strange?
Well, I agree. I think that there are, I think it's going to be a heck of a fight. I think that we got to get in and really during appropriations, we need to look and see where that money can come from. I've talked to a lot of experts in this education, and it's going to be a difficult way to find this money. It's going to be difficult to find this money. But I'm going to tell you that we got to get in and we have to fight for it. We have all these jobs that we're bringing here, and if we don't build a workforce, the jobs are going to leave and go somewhere else. So when we go to the legislature, it's going to be probably a wrestling match during appropriations. We're going to have to start taking public education very seriously in this state and paying for a lot more of it. So I will be in the fight. I will be looking. I know it's going to be a hard fight. We're going to have to cut in some places that are not going to be fun, and I just know it's going to be worth the fight.
At this point, you each have 1 minute to close. Ms. Zwiener?
We're facing hard issues in Texas right now, and I'm so glad that so many of them came up tonight. We have to deal with funding our public schools. We have to deal with having the highest uninsured rate in the country. In 2021, we're going to have to deal with redistricting. And out of the 5 major communities in Hays County, 4 of them are split between 2 congressional districts. I think I've shown y'all tonight that I have the know-how and the gumption to go in there and do it. So I'm not in this to represent the folks who share my party label. I'm in this to represent everyone. And I will fight for each and every Texan. What y'all have a choice between this election is the status quo and someone who is ready to get in there and get to work. Someone who is not afraid of telling you the specifics. So I would appreciate your vote on November 6th. Let's put the all back in y'all.
Thank you. My name is Ken. As you know, my name is Ken Strange. It says so. I'm so used to doing this. But I've been in public service my entire adult life. I joined the Air Force when I was young, got out, went to work as a volunteer fireman, went to work, and have been in this county for 35 years working hard. I have proven that I can work hard. I have the endorsement of the seasoned state representative who says I can do the job. And I also have the endorsement of Patrick Rose, the Democrat state representative, who was the representative before that. They know because we work together. This is going to be a hard job. I'm here to do it. I've proven over the years that I can do this. And I want to continue in my years of public service at your capital. I would appreciate your vote. I want to thank you guys very much for coming out tonight. And thank you, Erin, for being here. And I look forward to your vote on November 6th. Thank you very much.
I'd like to remind anyone who's making a video recording on your phone tonight that remember the rule that I read earlier, those cannot